Good morning, everyone. I'm Kevin Allen, and I'm joined by my podcast partner, former NHL defenseman Tom Laidlaw, who played for both the Kings and the New York Rangers, not in that order. But Tom, if you were playing today, you would not be playing any games because, here we are, and we should probably have a put up on the screen like day whatever this is and this is odd because you and I both have gone through lockouts where we lost a season in 2004-05 we've had other seasons reduced to 48 games, but the oddity of this is everything's shut down in the sports world. So when we've had the NHL locked out, usually you had baseball starting up and there was a lot going on, but all we really have in the sports world is a lot of discussion about the draft. And now I got the bulletin on the CDC yesterday saying that they're recommending no gatherings of more than 50 people for the next 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm reading that sounds like the final buzzer on the NBA and NHL seasons. 8 weeks takes us into middle of May.
Yep.
Could we start a playoff tournament in the middle of May and have a season? I mean, I know the NHL is committed to trying to make it work, but boy, you're going to have to be really creative if that's the earliest they could get started.
Yeah, and if somebody isn't that tendency, if they say the earliest 8 weeks, then 8 weeks becomes 10 weeks and 12 weeks, and that's typically how it happens, right? So, I'll tell you, it's interesting around here in New York. I know it's not just New York, but I mean, you've got people in Manhattan. It's such a condensed area that. I think it's the fear of people doubting or just the unknown. Is it really true? Is it not true? We talked about that before we went on air. I mean, a lot of people walking around thinking this is just a big, not a hoax, but it isn't nearly as bad as everybody's saying it is. So, it reminds me of not nearly even close to being the same kind of thing. But I think I was playing for the Rangers probably like early 80s. There was a hurricane that was coming through. And, everybody's battening down the hatches. This is just a couple of days. But I remember what an eerie feeling that was. Everybody kind of shut in and, hunkered down and staying safe. And now being around here now, it's that same feeling that there are people out and about. On the weekend, it was a nice day. People were at parks and all that kinds of stuff. But as far as, being close to people, it's a scary time.
Well, it is. And the oddity of it, and this is the kind of things that people are going through now. My wife is at my son's house in Chicago, and they're doing some home repairs, and my wife is very skilled at that, and she's also, dealing with the grandkids and so forth. And she said that she was going to take my grandkids to the park, and of course, I had to say to her only because I just saw this on a television show of be careful going to the park because those slides and things are festivals of germs. And I had just seen on the park where one of the questions directed at a panel of doctors that was on, and I don't remember whether it was MSNBC or CNN or where I was, but they had a panel of doctors, and one of them was directed as, how about the parks? And they said, well, a nice walk and playing in the park probably wouldn't hurt your kids. But boy, you don't want them on those apparatus because this virus sticks on metal. It actually doesn't last as long on cardboard.
I saw that yesterday. Yeah,
but for some reason, it sticks on metal for a lengthy period of time. So, my wife, just said, "Wow, you just don't even think of those things." And the worst thing is, let me rephrase that. That's a terrible phrasing of this because it's really a wonderful thing that children don't seem to be affected by this, but they're just great incubators and they transmit this disease. So, if they could pick it up and not get any symptoms, but pass it along to, adults who could, have some issues. So it's really, really a difficult time. And I saw another thing on television. I'm sure everybody might have been watching when I was about a doctor who's constantly on, was giving advice. And she said one of her friends called her and wanted to see whether the doctor kids would be involved in a play date she was organizing. And the doctor had to say, nah, that's not exactly what we should be doing here. Just because they're home from school doesn't mean, they should be getting together with groups of people. This morning, and this is great for me. It's terrible for my wife because she's not a big movie person. She likes to be active and doing things. Told everyone they should just sit around and watch movies.
Yeah.
So it's just an odd time. But getting back to the hockey, I fully believe, Tom, and I bet you do too, that the NHL will move mountains, and the NBA for sure, in all sports, to try to get a season in. Now, but they're also going to be practical about this.
Yep.
So what we've all heard is that they're going to be open-minded about what kind of playoff format we have.
Yep.
Which could be a lot of fun. Like I've heard wild things like a March Madness style game, which a lot of GMs don't like because they don't want single elimination. But what if it was the only way we could get a season in?
Sure.
Would you do that, Tom? Would you?
Oh. Well, you remember we had the lockout, the most recent lockout, and we only played like 48 games, and all the games were in the conference. I mean, that was fantastic hockey because every game meant that much more. So I think that would be great in a lot of ways. But here's my thing. So let's try to play this scenario. Let's say the CDC is correct. It's 8 weeks. So is it 8 weeks that the players can't practice together? So they're going to be sitting around now for like 2.5 months. We're already 2 weeks into it or 1 week into it. So 8-9 weeks sitting around not practicing. I guess they can work out on their own someplace. They can't. My gym is closed. Most gyms are, if they're not closed already, are going to be closed. I guess they can work out on their own. But now they're going to step on the ice and get into if it's a shortened season, every game means that much more. Or if it's a single elimination, it's going to be kind of like their injury concerns. I'm just trying to see how that's all going to transpire, right? I mean, it's nice to say, well, okay, well, let's start in 8 weeks and get going, but these guys, I guess they can do something on their own, but they're certainly not going to be on the ice skating because all the rinks are closed and everything now. And so you can't have the workers come back into work in the rinks before the 8 week. If that's 8 weeks is 8 weeks, and you can't have the workers working the rink and driving the Zambonis. So I just don't know how the players are going to be ready to go with that. I think it'd be fantastic hockey if somehow they had an opportunity to really get themselves, back in shape. Again, I don't view these guys these days as getting out of shape in that period of time, but they won't have played an NHL hockey game. And that's a long time to be sitting around and not playing a game and all of a sudden step into a playoff type game. So it would be fantastic hockey. I just don't see how that's all going to happen.
Yeah, well, we don't know. I mean, 8 weeks, that's what they said. But, I know Gary Bettman last week. Now, again, he didn't know as much as he knows now. But I think last week, the reporting was that he told the Board of Governors that this would be a minimum of 3 weeks.
Right.
And I think Silver told the NBA, the commissioner of NBA, told his people at a minimum of 30 days. So, I think everyone will take stock probably in the middle of April and try to decide, where we're at. And we'll know more by, the statistics that we see.
See, here's the intelligent guy. Former NHLer Mike Hartman wrote in here, Tom's going to be pumping iron. See, it just shows his level of how he's right on and up with current events.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to be posting a video later today. I couldn't get my gym and I don't have any weights at home. So you got to wait and see how I pump iron here. So,
well, speaking of that, before we went on, I told the story of, how, you have to be creative too. And it's not only in these types as well. Before Jordan Tutu arrived in the NHL, I went and did a story on him. He was going to be the first Inuit. And I went out to Rankin Inlet and Nunavut, the territory out there. And it was July, and he lives, on the Hudson Bay. He's from there. And the ice had just melted by Rankin Inlet. It was July, like the week before. Yeah. So, that's how, the conditions are up there. But you know what? There are no powerhouse gyms in Rankin Inlet. So what he did is he filled up those 5-gallon paint buckets full of sand.
Yeah.
And then he put, one on each arm. And then he had a cousin, a little girl, probably 11 years old, I would guess. And he put her on his back. Then he just ran across the tundra, holding out those 5-gallon drums with his, and that was his workout.
Right.
That's because that's what he had to work with. Like he just, would get creative, and he just ran across the tundra holding with his stretched out arms these 5-gallon buckets full of sand, and then his cousin on his back. And there was no rink, or at least not close, for him to work out at either. So you got to do what you got to do. I mean, people trained before we had gyms.
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Here's my big question, though, going back to something you said earlier. Your wife left you all alone. She's in Chicago and you're there by yourself?
I am sequestered, and I'm not going out either. So
are you able to cook? Can you cook or anything? Or?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're a cook, seriously, really?
Yeah. Oh, of course. And
so you're not the guy that just sits there on the couch and your wife makes a meal.
No.
Oh, okay.
I can take care of myself. You got to remember, I've been, on the road too for 150 days a year in some seasons. So, I'm pretty reliant. Plus, in today's world, you don't have to. There's Grubhub and all that kind of stuff now. And that's the way before. I'm sure. Now that's not the way you eat, but in the old days,
So we posted a video the other day. Actually, I think it was Sunday. We posted a video. So yesterday. So yesterday's meal after our workout was avocado, banana, almond milk, almond butter, and protein powder, all mixed up in a blender.
I saw that. I'm not a big smoothie guy, though.
Oh, if you tasted this, though, healthy. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like all those ingredients, so I'm sure I would. It's just not my idea of a meal. I've seen other people swear by them as well. The one thing that you talk about all the time, which is unrelated to eating, but what I think is so valuable. I was talking to my wife about it too. When you always say "clean as you go,"
clean as you go. Yes,
yeah. So, and I said, Tom is not only now healthy, but he's become a cleanliness freak. He wants to clean as he goes.
Yeah, you can't have dishes left in the sink. If you go to bed at night, everything's got to be put away. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, have you always been like that, or is it only recently?
No, I was the typical guy before. Since I started this whole True Good Life thing, like part of it was when I watched the video of this Admiral William McRaven, the Navy SEAL admiral, talking about the importance of making your bed. He did this great speech, the graduated class at the University of Texas, I believe it was. And he talked about a lot of things that he learned in his Navy SEAL training, but the big one was making your bed and how important it was. And I'll never forget, I saw the video, and I was like most single guys. I wouldn't even bother making my bed, close the door, and everything was fine. So I started kind of doing it halfway, pulled the sheets up, and I went and watched the video again. And he really goes into great detail about how important it is. It's how, if you can't do the little things right in life, then you're not going to do the big things right. And important. So that's the first thing you do in the morning. And you just don't make the bed, you make it perfect, the square corners and all that stuff. So
can you bounce a quarter off it, Tom?
Yes, totally. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Do you bounce a quarter?
No, I don't bounce the quarter off it, but it's seriously, when I make the bed, before I leave the room, I turn and I look at the bed being made, and now it's turned into this major accomplishment for me. It's gets me fired up in the morning. The idea is now that you're going to do everything right, do it all the right way. So you go to the gym, you go to the march, you make your meals, whatever, and even in work now, it's all about doing it all out and doing it the right way. So it was great.
Now I have a suggestion for you that I think all your loyal followers, your grasshoppers, would appreciate. Because I'm following the advice of the guy on television, I've watched movies. Plus, I'm basically unemployed, having lost my job in January. Right. I'm looking for another one, so I've had a lot of time to see movies. And I saw a movie, Go for Broke, which was the story of, it's a really old movie of the Japanese American troops who fought the Nazis in World War II. And in their training, Van Johnson is the star, and he comes in and he doesn't like how they make their bed, because when he bounces a quarter, it doesn't bounce up.
Right.
So I want to see tomorrow on your next video.
Okay. Yes.
I want to see that quarter bounce off that bed. You should try to find that movie and put both of those on there. Van Johnson bouncing his quarter off the thing.
Okay. Yes. I like it.
Yeah, because I think your grasshoppers would love that.
They would. Okay. Nice.
Yeah, if you could do that. So anyway, getting back, some of the other things I've heard, and we're getting off topic, but this is all related, obviously. But there's been discussion. I think that and I hesitate to say the majority, because I've done no polling whatsoever, but just from talking to people around the league, I get a sense, and that's all it is a sense or hunch, if I can quote President Trump. I hunch that the majority of people, don't want to have a system where it's a strict 16 because the regular season will have been truncated, and the people that were just on the outside say, hey, look, we might have got in. Yeah. Like, right now you can look at those wild card races and they're tight. Yep. And we'll go through them before this show is over, but they're really tight. Yep. So I think, I have this sense that people want a system that sort of respects the fact that, had the season played out, it wouldn't be these 16 teams, even though you could just say, look, we're going to do points per games played, which evens out the playing field. Right. And then we'll just put 16 teams in and we'll play business as usual. And if we don't have enough time, maybe we go to best of 5. I mean, you could do that, sure. But I get the sense people don't want to do that. They want to sort of make it more elaborate. And also I think it would add the sort of the newness to it and give it a little, not that the playoffs need a spike in interest because they're just always great anyway, but, just to jazz it up a little bit.
Sure.
So, a 24 team playoff has also been discussed as well. And I bet that would have, a lot of popularity among the.
Well, which one you did, like a 3 out of 5 series? Maybe?
Well, there'd be like a play-in sort of tournament. Right. Like I think the bottom 8 would sort of play, and I don't know, maybe it'd be best of 1 or a 2-game series. Who knows? I mean, basically it's a blank chalkboard. I mean, just for those of you out there, just think about that Gary Bettman and the GMs all standing there at the chalkboard and them talking about what we could do, because that's essentially what's going to happen. I mean, this is.
When I was going one the other day, so you take the 5 teams at the bottom, so the 2 teams that are in that have the wild card spots locked up now, and then the 3 teams below them, so you get 5 teams, and have some kind of a round robin tournament with those 5 teams. Right, so you could do you're going to play 4 other teams if you're one of those 5. If you have a home and away both, and have some kind of a tournament, and then now that decides the top 2 out of those 5 now get into the playoffs. Now, my concern is though, what do you do during that? I mean, that's going to take 10 days to probably play at least.
More, I would say more. That's 8 games you got to play.
Yeah. So what happens to the other teams and the other 6 teams? In each conference that are sitting there waiting, right? I mean, do they play continue to play some kind of meaningful games against each other?
I see. I think you'd have to, first of all, I think you'd have to play 1 game.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not home and away, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know you could do it. I think you'd have to play just kind of 1 game, and the teams that are highest, get the home ice advantage. Just because, you can't have that round last too long.
Yeah. Sure.
And look, single elimination is not the way you want to crown a champion for sure in the NHL. But we've all watched baseball playing games, and my gosh, they're exciting.
Yeah, they are.
They really are. And I just think I just can't imagine, because I'm in favor of playing games for just like baseball for the playoff format. I think we ought to, at a minimum, do the 8th place playing the 9th place, but I would, to be honest with you, I'd do 7 and 8 playing 9 and 10 every year, single elimination. And, if you don't, and I say this all the time, first of all, it already comes down to that anyway, because usually it comes down to the final game of regular season that we're playing to get in the playoffs. And secondly, if you don't like that system, then make sure you finish in the top 6.
I agree. And it is fair for everybody. I mean, everybody knows going in, these are the rules. Right? So,
and then you play that single elimination game, and I just think they would be as exciting to watch. I just can't imagine. And you sell the rights. This is ancillary revenue. You increase it. You sell it to ESPN or to TNT or to Fox. I don't know, whoever will take it. And you have that game on, and now you got another networks, a different group of analysts, and everybody will tune in. I bet the ratings of that will be as good as you get for a Stanley Cup final.
Okay. Yeah, that's the thing. They may be forced into doing something that they then go, "Wow, we should do this every year." Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it's an instant game 7 if you play a single game. And we love game 7s.
I agree. So what do you think of my theory? So we can't play each team, like if we go the bottom 5.
I don't think you can play each team twice. I just don't know. I mean, I think you got to play it like a tournament. Where so we're going to play 5, so we have to have a crossover,
right?
Somehow. So if we played
crossover to the other conference,
well, no, I'm trying to think not conference, but we got to get them so that when we're done, like 5 is teams on each side. You can't play. That's uneven amount. Like we would need 4. I think you'd have to do 2 and 2.
Right.
Because 5, once they play each other, because I think that's the only way you can do it. I think you got to play each other, and you can't.
Right.
It's got to be.
In the case in the East, the Carolina's got the top wild card spot, and the Rangers are the second team out of the playoff spot right now. So the Carolina would play the Rangers.
Yeah, let me get that open because we also got to look at this. I don't think you can just take points right now because everyone's paying an uneven amount. I think you got to go points per games played. So I think that's the only way to be fair. So
I got you. All right. Okay.
Yeah. So I've got it open now too, and we'll look at it. Okay. So we're looking at this in the wild card. We've got Carolina and Columbus. Now, the Islanders have 80 points, but they played 68 games. That's 2 fewer than Columbus. I have to do the math, but I'm guessing the math would show the Islanders would have that spot.
Jump up.
But what we're going to have then is
so then Florida has only played 68 games and they're one point behind the Rangers, so they jump over the Rangers then.
I would think so, but again, you'd have to do the math on your computer there. Okay, so but and that's going to be important because one of those teams is not going to be able to play in our tournament if we're only going to have 4. See, the only problem is what I was going to say is if you brought 5 in, then you could play. See, because what you want is Carolina to play the range. Let's just say the.
But here's the thing, though. Let me back up. If you only have 4 teams, and each team's only playing 3 games, like you're playing the other.
No, you're not playing every team. You're playing a tournament. It's just single elimination. So, in other words, the top wild card. This is the wild card tournament.
Gotcha. Okay.
The number 1 seed, the Carolina Hurricanes, in this wild card tournament is going to play the number 4 team, which is the Florida Panthers, and then the number 2 team, the New York Islanders, is going to play the 3 team, Columbus. Blue Jackets. Now, I don't know. We're going to have to do the math on those, and the fact that neither you or I are math majors, it's hurting us here. But so anyway, then you have this tournament. Then of course, say Carolina wins, and let's say the Islanders win, and then Carolina, and the Islanders. Well, if you do that though, then you don't even need to play the next game because you're settled. You got your wild card teams. So, well, here's what we can do. Okay, here's the way we can do it. So I've got it because you want 5 teams in. So
I want to play 4 games. Each team's playing 4 games.
Yeah, but we're trying to cut down at the end because now we're gonna when we're done with this, we got to play 4 rounds.
So, what if you just play 4 games? Each team plays 4 games.
Well, what I'm saying is, after we're done with those 4 games, we still got to play 4 rounds of hockey.
Okay, but then you're going to have to reduce those rounds. They've got to be 3 out of 5. Then there's not time to play 4.
I guess so. Okay, but here's what we could do with your 5. See what you think about this before we play each game. Right. I guess you could. We can do it your way. You play 4 games, and then the best records get in, which would be the best way to get a true wild card team. But if you played 5 versus 4, you play it like a rat tail. They call it when you do a wrestling tournament. In high school and college, where you're playing to get in. So 5 plays 4 there in that wild card race. Okay, and just winner take all. Now we got our top 4, and then we do the seeding again. So those teams could play. One of those teams will play 2 games. Right. But we could do it your way.
Sure. Then what happens? With mine though, like you said, if you're going to have 4 games, that's going to take at least a week. What happens to the other teams that are already in the playoffs, right? Are they going to play some kind of meaningful games against each other?
No, they're in training camp.
They're in training camp. Okay. Yeah. So, but I'm trying to poke holes in this, right? So now the teams that are in these bottom 5 teams
they're going to be complaining like heck.
Yeah, they'll be sitting around for 8 weeks. All of a sudden, they're going to step in and play.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's not good. I mean, that's why I think you almost have to figure out it's got to be a single elimination where you're.
Yeah.
Um,
I think your single elimination is better, right? Because there's less time. And
yeah, you get it in, you play, the way they do it in baseball, and in baseball they play all the time anyway, so it's not that big a deal. But the season ends on Sunday, Monday they're playing one of those games.
Yep.
So, but that's why I think a lot of people are thinking the 24, tournament where it's some just crazy deal. So 24, you go down to 12. And,
does that work? Does that math work? So you get 8, you get 16 making the playoffs now. So
wait a minute. So 24 would go down to 12. So you'd have 6. Would you then give a bye to someone?
that'd be interesting how to do that. Or do you just say, all right, listen, we go winning percentage across the board for everybody. Top 8 teams are in. So you don't have any single elimination. Right?
Yeah, you could.
And then it depends when it starts, right? Because they may be so limited a time, they've got to do something like that and then just have 3 out of 5 series instead of 4 out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much of this is really going to be dependent upon how much time is left.
Right.
And
if it is 8 weeks, they're going to have some time to skate. So that 8 weeks has got to be 10 or 12 weeks before they start to play, right?
Yeah, because they're going to need some time. But the one good thing, though, is, this is just you and I talking about it. They're going to have 31 coaches and 31 general managers and everybody in the league office. Everybody's going to be thinking about this all the time they're out.
Yeah, totally.
So there'll be a much more creative thoughts to this, and then they'll just have to reach a consensus, which will never be easy because, and no matter whoever gets screwed in this is going to be bitter.
Right.
I mean, really bitter.
And, I could think back to my first year in the league. I was with the Rangers and we played. They used to rank them 1 through 16 at that time.
Yeah.
League wide. So we didn't have a great, I think we were 15th overall. We played the LA Kings in the first round. They were 2nd overall. That was a 3 out of 5 in that series too. Or maybe I was thinking 2 out of 3. No, it was a 3 out of 5 because we won 1 there and 2 in New York. So they can do something like that where the early round is less games and then you go to the 4 to 7 in the later rounds too. So,
well, let's turn this. One thing, anybody's watching all this, you guys should think about this because we'll have time to talk about this again. So we're open to what's the best idea for playing, and how do you feel about? I've heard from readers who said it should just be a 31 team tournament, and we just go the first game is they play the bottom, like buys for the top teams, and then the bottom teams just play single elimination until we get to our 16.
Okay, here's a I don't know if you guys even remember this name. This is an old New York Ranger, Ron Greshner. He says, "What about 24 teams, just 1 through 24 across the board?" Yeah,
that's been suggested. That really has. There's been people.
Do people remember who Ron Greshner is?
Oh yeah, for sure they do.
Yeah. What do they think? Him, the guy with the big nose? Is that what they think? Or?
I think first of all, everybody who's a Rangers fan from that era remembers Ron Greshner. So if they know Tom Laidlaw, they know Ron Greshner.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So, but I think what Ron is saying has been one of the discussion points that I've heard talked about often.
Right.
That it's because we have to pay homage to the teams that could have gotten in. Like nobody later than 24 is probably going to get in. Now, we just showed that the Panthers can probably make a case, and they might not be in the top 24.
So then you're going to end up having. So who's got the best record in the league? Boston. So Boston would end up playing somebody like.
Yeah, so we're going to.
Boston would play somebody like Montreal right now, right? Or right. They're four spots out of a wild card, right? So the 12th over there, or they could have somebody like Chicago.
Well, there's going to have to be some buys because 24 is not going to work. That's going to get us right down to that 12 again after the first round if everybody played, and then that gets us to 6.
Right.
So unless we give the buys,
who's getting a buy?
That's what we got to figure out. But that I don't know. We can figure all that out today.
Yes.
Yeah. So And that's one of the issues that everybody's looking at is, how to make this work. So, it's both fun and logical, and,
Right.
You want to make it as fair as you can for all the teams. Like, there's no leg to stand on for the Detroit Red Wings to make the playoffs.
That is accurate.
But there are, if you're the Florida Panthers, you do have a leg to stand on.
Totally.
So, and all that kind of stuff. We've run out of time. Maybe next time on Thursday, I want to get into this too. Life's still going on in the NHL.
Yep.
The New York Rangers signed Keandra Miller, who was playing at Wisconsin. The Kings signed Alex Turcotte as well. So maybe next time we'll talk a little bit about those young players and the Rangers rebuild and what that means for him. He said Miller's a pretty good prospect. I'm going to give you some time to do a little research on him, Tom, and we'll pick that up then. So thanks for joining us, and we'll be back on Wednesday to get into this more about whether or not how this is going to work. By then, we'll have all the math figured out.
Right. And guys, wash your hands, social distancing. All right. You can even be like Kevin, just live alone. Right. His wife.
Yeah. I'm just a hermit.